Hello wonderful people, it's Genevieve and my goal here on this channel is to teach you all about illustration and design. So if you're new, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the week videos and so that you can join our wonderful creative community. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can wrap up your cables just like this one in order to make them prettier but also a little bit more sturdy and kind of protect them. And all you're going to need apart for a cable, of course, is some yarn. So let's get started. So before we start, you need to make sure that your cable is secured. So it can either be with a piece of tape that you put on the top part of the cable, not the cable itself. You could also clip the top of the cable and tape the clip. Or you could do what I usually do, which is I just take this top part here and squeeze that between my knees and hold it that way. And no matter the method you use, make sure that if you lightly tug on the cable, it will stay in place. Now for the yarn, you can use pretty much anything you want. There's no rule here. Make sure though that it is something that is fairly sturdy in the sense that it's not going to fluff out everywhere, and make sure also that it is not too thick. Otherwise, your cable is going to end up being very, very thick as well. And on the other hand, you don't want to use something super thin like embroidery thread. Otherwise, it's going to take you very, very long time to cover your entire cable. So just try to find a happy medium, and I'm going to be linking the yarn that I used in the description below so you could use the same one as I did. And you can have as many colors as you want on just one charger, but for now we're going to learn how to do it with just one color, and later I'm going to show you how to adapt the technique to have multiple colors. So we're going to start by taking the loose end of the yarn still attached to the yarn ball and knot it at the top of the cable. So just a regular knot, but make sure that it is as tight and as close to the top as you possibly can. And if you've ever made friendship bracelets as a kid, you're gonna recognize this technique. It's pretty much the same thing, but on top of a cable instead of just on top of other embroidery threads. It is really easy. All we're going to do is basically knot the yarn over the cable. But to do it and so that it looks neat, we're going to create a P shape over the cable, so like this. The yarn is creating the P, and then we're going to take our yarn ball and pull it through the loop under the cable, so just like this. And you're gonna see it creates a little loop that if you pull on, it is going to create your first little knot. And that is literally all we have to do, just over and over again, with a few little things we need to keep in mind as well. So we're always going to be creating this P shape and then pulling the yarn through. Though you're going to notice that the more you do it, your knots are going to start to spiral over the cable. So I'm going to show what that's going to look like in a few seconds, but it's basically just going to be wrapping around and doing this really cool spiral effect. That being said, if you don't always do the P in the same direction, so if you go around and do like a 4 as opposed to a P, the knots are going to be all over the place and they're not going to create the spiral shape. It is going to look very, very messy. So make sure that your loop is always on the same side of the cable to create a P, and then you can just pull your yarn through, create a little loop, and bring it to the top. And you can already see that this new knot is slightly more on the left than the first one. So this is what's going to create the spiraling effect. And you're just going to do this a bunch more times, and at one point you're going to notice something really interesting. So since your knots are spiraling around the cable, at one point your yarn is actually going to be under the cable. That is not what we want. That being said, it's a very easy fix. All you have to do is take your yarn ball and literally switch side so that you can then pull it over your cable and just keep going with the regular P shape knots that we've been doing since we started. And this is really all you have to do for your entire cable. So you can see here is a little sped up footage. At one point you're going to really get the hang of it and it's not going to take you long at all. So you would just cover your entire cable and then use the finishing technique that I'm going to show you later in the video. But for now, it is time for the secret password. And if you're new on this channel, I know it might sound a little bit strange, but if you've watched up until this far in the video, please go ahead and comment yarn. I know it might sound crazy, but it gives me a lot of insight into how to edit and pace my videos better, which helps me create better tutorials for you guys. And it's also really cool because you guys know me, but I don't know you. And whenever you leave a comment, I get to see, your face, your username, sometimes even your name. And it's just really great to see the wonderful creative community that we've built here on this channel. So just go ahead and comment yarn, and then we'll move on to the technique for multiple colors. So the setup is the exact same whether you're using one color or multiple colors. So you start with a cable and you make sure that it is secured at the top. You're just going to pick the color of yarns that you want, making sure that it is the same type of yarn. So same size, same sturdiness, basically the same brand. You can use 2, 3, 4 colors, as many as you want. And you're just going to start by knotting all your colors together at the top in one tight knot, as tightly as possible, as close to the top of the charger as you possibly can. So just like we did with just one color. The difference here is that you're going to pick one of the colors and separate it, and the other ones you're all going to stack them and hold them along with the charger. And here you're going to notice in this demo I only have short pieces of yarn, but if you're covering an entire cable you can also use the full yarn balls for multiple colors. It is going to be easier, but here, yeah, I just had scrap pieces, so we're going to do with that. And you can probably tell where I'm heading with this. You're basically going to be doing the exact same thing, so creating a P shape and then just pulling your yarn ball through the loop and creating a knot that way. All you have to make sure here is that your other colors are really tight along with the cable so that there's no bunching or anything like that, and you're just going to repeat the step over and over again until you have the desired length for one color. And this length is really up to you. You can even create patterns with different sections being different length. That being said, if you want your sections to be even, simply count how many knots you're doing and then just replicate that over and over again, switching colors. And when you're ready to switch color, you just do exactly that. You switch color, making sure that your other pieces of yarn are really flush with the cable, and then you simply do your P shape and create a bunch of little knots. So nothing crazy here, it is literally the same technique, it's just that you have multiple pieces of yarn attached to your cable and then you kind of switch between them. And keep in mind that if you use a lot of colors and really thick yarn, your cable at the end is going to be very, very, very thick. So try to use, 2, 3, maybe 4 colors to make sure that your cable, is manageable at the end. Speaking of ends, let's look at how to finish up your cable. So this is what your cable is going to look like once you covered most of it. You can see very clearly the spiraling pattern that I was telling you about. So if you made sure that you always made your P in the same direction, this is what you should get as well. Now this little section here that we have at the end, once you have half an inch to an inch, you can go ahead and just cut your ball of yarn. It's going to make everything way easier. So just make sure that you keep yourself a little bit of length, nothing crazy, maybe 12 inches or so, 30 centimeters. And you're just going to do the exact same thing as before, just on a very small scale. It is a little bit tricky, but it's exactly the same thing. So you're just going to finish up right up until the base of the cable or the end of the cable. And all you have to do to finish this up is knot the yarn onto itself. So not on the cable, really just on the yarn. And this knot, you need to make sure it is as close as possible to the end of the charger. It can be a little bit tricky, especially if you have thicker fingers, but this way it's going to help preventing the cable from unraveling, basically, although it would probably be strong enough without this knot. This knot is kind of a special instance. So make sure it is as tight as you can and as close to the end as possible. And you're also going to do that with the little stray piece that we had here at the top. And at this point, all you have left to do is take a pair of scissors and cut your yarn as close as you can to the knot. So you want to make it look clean, nothing stray, nothing weird, nothing poking out, as clean and sharp as you can. And this is what your cable should look like. We still have a few little things to make sure that it holds on really, really well, but you can see the hard work is done. So we're just going to add a little bit of glue on the end. I'm using regular white glue, nothing fancy here, but all you want to do is, just add some glue on the ends everywhere around the knots. It is going to dry clear, but it's going to be a little bit more of a insurance again to make sure nothing unravels and you don't lose your hard work. And this is what it's going to look like when it is dry. So you have your cable, you don't see the glue anymore, but it is really secure and it's holding really, really well. And you can use this technique to cover up any cable and any charger, and I personally like to color code mine. So my iPad chargers are green and my phone chargers are blue. And if you enjoyed this video and want to learn what to do with your leftover yarn, I highly recommend you check out this video in which I'm going to show you how to make a custom rug at home. So just click on the link right here and I'll meet you there.